We're going to talk about AI. Some of you might want to turn this off now. Some of you are maybe very curious about it now, but AI has no doubt become the most significant topic everywhere you go in the last couple of months. Carmen, what do you take of all things AI?
For me, I'm very versed, but my takeaway is I am very skeptical to allowing it personally into my life.
Welcome to 30 Minute You, the university launched for you, where your co-hosts go over real-world topics through a live mentorship podcast so you can walk away with the skills you need to succeed in your field in only 30 minutes. My name is Meer, one of the co-hosts, and I host one of the world's top mentorship platforms, where I interview people like the mayor of Miami, the founder of Reebok, and the former CEO of Chipotle to provide you real-life mentorship in your pocket.
And my name is Carmen. Over the last 10 years, I've launched over 70 companies spanning in industries like hospitality, real estate, retail, and cannabis. With hundreds of employees, I am an investor, lawyer, and educator.
And we hope you enjoyed listening to this show as much as we enjoyed recording it. We'll see you inside the classroom. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to 30 Minute You. 30 Minute You is a university in your pocket every other Tuesday with your co-hosts, Carmen and Meer. Welcome back to another interesting segment. Today for 30 Minute You, we're going to talk about AI. Some of you might want to turn this off now. Some of you are maybe very curious about it now, but AI has no doubt become the most significant topic everywhere you go in the last couple of months. Even NVIDIA recently hit $1 trillion market cap due to their AI focus on their business now. Everything is incorporating AI. The question is now becoming, is AI a bubble? Is it hyped? Is it here to stay? Is it something scary? Is going to take over our lives? We're going to get a lot of insight from a millennial business owner who may or may not have used AI yet. But to give you guys some quick statistics, AI is expected to see an annual growth of almost 40% from 2023 to 2030, according to Forbes. And AI will continue to revolutionize various industries with an expected growth rate. Now every company is looking at different ways to use AI, from Apple to Facebook to even Spotify. You know, AI is now even being used to clone voices. You know, they did an AI podcast with Joe Rogan and Steve Jobs, which literally sounded pretty legit. But no doubt, this is something interesting. You have to learn about it, especially if you're a Gen Z. This is something that, you know, I would take your seat for the next 30 minutes in this classroom. Carmen, what do you take of all things AI?
So I am, for the purposes of this segment, I like to sort of frame our topics and discussions with takeaways. And I typically do that through my own lens, but this is an interesting one because, you know, I am a millennial, you're a Gen Z, and the generations behind me, you know, it's AI means different things. For me, I'm very versed. I'm like fascinated. It is my sort of like, I like spending a few minutes a day just going through journals and getting into rabbit holes. It's there's sort of like this pleasure of learning so much, and I can't keep up with all of the announcements, as you said. But my takeaway is I am very skeptical to allowing it personally into my life. So I want to limit the amount of AI activation in my own life because I'm incredibly concerned with the future. I'll give you I'll start off with a story on it. Uh-oh. I've got a buddy, I'll use his name, Kyle. And he was telling me he had a VR set, and the VR set, and he simulated sex, you know, and now the VR set's just the visual. So however else he you know, participated. To me, that was like, it was like a funny story, but I couldn't help but ask, like, how was it, you know? And he said he will never do it again. He said it was so incredible and so real and so like, you know, that it really, you know, nerved him a little bit, you know, didn't want to get almost addicted to it. Now with where we are and how fast, like that's VR. Now this is all AI. Where we're going, you know, where we started on just a computer beating a world chess master, and now you're seeing robots play sports. When they can, it will only be in a few years that you will have the fluidity of movement. I mean, we are going to witness an AI robot beat the world's best at basketball. And I think that, and I mean, just like we're seeing, AI is going to not come after, but, the introduction in the medical community and the construction community for accountants, this ChatGPT is replacing, basically professors or students, depending on how you're looking at it. The technology and science is outpacing human intelligence to such a degree that it's a really important conversation. And I think everyone really needs to go into the exercise of limiting themselves because of the perils. I do think it can ultimately replace. I mean, the fact that these are moving, AI moves 100,000 times faster than the brain, that just tells me we can't win. Yeah. We're absolutely replaced. And that's our future. Isn't that a wild thesis? Yeah. That everything that we do will be replaced, but your ability to be an interviewer, you'll be nothing compared to what they're going to be able to do.
Steve Jobs.
My ability to open up a restaurant or I like to play a role in the creative design of my spaces and everything. I won't be able to compete, with this technology. So, I think it's really cool. And that's why I'm so interested in it. But I do, I am very hesitant and have basically set up sort of like a internal self-check on capacities where I allow AI into my life.
Well, let me ask you this then. You're a millennial, but you're actually not that old. When the internet started coming out, the technology about that, how old were you?
I was old enough to understand what was going on.
So I really want to conceptualize this. When that started coming out and you were able to understand it, was it similar in any way? Like, oh my God, this is going to change us, or no? Was it more different?
Well, I mean, I think that's sort of the first car, the first airplane, the first cell phone. I mean, there are moments in time, the iPhone, where you're identifying invention that kind of changes the way that the speed with which we move and communicate. AI is, I would take a much grander position. I think that in the history of humanity, there is no more significant an invention than AI. And it, to a scale infinitely above everything I just mentioned. Mm-hmm. And it's why I think it ends kind of poorly. Because the science and technology, again, are moving so quickly that we can't keep up with it. We can't conceptualize it, and we can't tell you what's going to happen. Yeah. I don't like any of those variables. Yeah. I mean, that's a very nerving model or vacuum to be thrown into.
What's interesting about what you're saying is, I don't think you saw, there was a recent podcast with the former Google chief of business who focused on AI, who basically just did an hour emergency podcast about saying we screwed up with AI. Like AI it's moving so fast that if the government doesn't get involved soon, it's going to get that bad. What's interesting is I bet you haven't even seen that podcast. It's so cool, not cool at all, that you as a business owner and the experience you've had in all the industries and recessions you've seen. We were just talking off camera of how kind of scared you are about where we're going with this, like how scary the technology is. Just like that former ex-Google business officer. Before this conversation with you, I was kind of looking at AI as something kind of cool. Like if you look at this right here, Amazon acquired Kiva, which was a robotics company last year that automates the process of picking and packing in a warehouse. And with that acquisition, AI and robotics, they were able to reduce their click-to-ship time to 15 minutes, which was a 225% decrease from humans with that. So I was looking at the bull case where, wow, AI can enhance your businesses. Maybe you can put them in one of your firms or your cannabis, or there's ways you can use it. But the more I'm listening, it sounds like it's more scary.
Well, I mean, I've done the sort of round table with a pint with friends, sort of just topics of discussion. Mm-hmm. And I can recall that sort of topic where, hey, if you could be thrown into any point in human history, would you survive? And some combination of my ego and arrogance plus alcohol, and not surprising, saying, I can compete at any time and rise, in society, at any moment in time in history, except for the future. I don't think, I query as to whether you can drop me off 10 years from now and I can have any meaningful impact that AI won't be able to just run so many laps around me that I'm becoming, I'm basically just, human, not waste, but I'm just suckling on society because I have nothing to contribute. That nerves me a little bit. It shakes me. But I'll tell you when I really got into it, because we're talking about here are the good things. What you just said on the
Amazing,
data and
right?
stat, it's so cool. And the medical advances in plugging into, symptoms, they're creating antibiotics, the dangerous construction jobs, going into coal mining, window wash, like things where they're statistically humans are at risk, you can be replaced. Exploration into space, into the water, that submersible that just, imploded on its exploration to the Titanic. Just the rescuing was dangerous. The search was dangerous. And yet AI can, so those are the good. The bad is like, we are all completely replaced. any skill and asset. And I really think in the next few years, we will witness a robot beat some of the best athletes in the world. And I'm saying like years as in just a few years from now. Granted, that's a thesis that I have that isn't founded in anything necessarily.
You're a lawyer.
You're watching the science move so fast. It seems like every week, the new updates on AI are like, look at because it's this learning system. And so, one of my favorite places, I don't like to say favorite, but businesses that I have, it is a very special spot in my heart, is Hubbard Inn. Yeah. And Hubbard Inn, there was a lot of design elements that were inspired by Ernest Hemingway. There's actually this oil painting of Ernest Hemingway and just his literary works and some of the drinks, and just it just inspires furniture, texture. And so there's a point to this story. My favorite Ernest Hemingway, and actually a buddy of mine, Dylan, turned me onto this. He's got a short story. It's credited to him. And it's 6 words: for sale, baby shoes, never worn. And that's the story. And it's like, it's popular. So I read another story, and I just stumbled on this story where they put for sale baby shoes never worn into an AI program, and it said finish the story, because that's sort of why it's famous, is it's just 6 words. So they ask a computer, finish the story, and I read what it finished, and it moved me.
Really?
I mean, this isn't true, by the way. Like, the story is true, but Ernest Hemingway, first of all, they believe he wrote it, but it's never been explained. So they basically tell AI, hey, imagine what this could mean. And the story it generates in 2 seconds, by the way, is that it's a story of grief between a husband and wife. The husband got his wife the baby shoes on the announcement of her pregnancy. They have a miscarriage. They have these baby shoes that they're holding on to. They're grieving that the visual of these baby shoes, they're grieving, and they want to, they want closure. They want to stop being reminded. So they put an ad out that says for sale, baby shoes never worn. I mean, it generates like that. Dude. When I read that, I was so moved. I mean, it was really powerful that some computer created this story in 2 seconds. I mean, it's
insane.
It's insane. Yeah. And that's where I'm like, wow, like the creative capacity that it was able to generate so fast. And that story moved me. If a fellow professor or if a member of society had told me, hey, you like that story? Here's what I think it means, I would be so impressed and enthralled. Yeah. So yeah, I just think, but having said that, I've not used ChatGPT. I've never been on it. I don't, I read about AI. I don't use it.
Okay.
So
Well, I think that is an interesting transition for us. Our studio manager, Tom, cue up the computer for us. I want to show this live because, guys, Carmen hasn't actually used ChatGPT. If you're a Gen Z, I know you've used it. If you haven't used it, it's going to be a little bit scary to see. But what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of exercise. We haven't done this before on the podcast. I'm going to pull up ChatGPT. Carmen's going to see it for the first time. Carmen recently opened up an Italian restaurant. Was it in South Loop?
Mm-hmm.
What's it called?
Cafe Bionda.
How long did it take you from idea?
Yeah, I mean, there's all the pieces. It's
Okay.
Italian concept, old, it's got that old school, sort of eclectic scene. It's the white tablecloth. It's a southern rich Italian cuisine.
And confirm to the audience here, we didn't play around with this beforehand, right? You have no
I've
idea.
never seen it.
Yeah.
I haven't even seen it.
Okay, so we just pulled up ChatGPT, as you guys can see on the screen here. We're going to pull, this is ChatGPT right here, Carmen.
Okay.
And for the visual, if you're watching it live on Instagram
I
or
sound like
YouTube,
such a boomer. I've never seen
he's
it.
like, what is this? So this is
But
where
it's true.
you can use this to pass the bar exam.
Yeah, no, I've heard about it. I mean,
there's
I'm
things-
familiar with it. I just haven't.
There's different things you can do. Since you opened up an Italian restaurant in Chicago, I thought it'd be most fitting to create a business plan for a new Italian restaurant. But I want you to give me the prompts to build the Italian restaurant. So give me criteria. We're going to tell this to build a plan.
Okay, Italian restaurant, 3,000 square feet.
Or 3,000 square feet.
Southern Italian cuisine. Let's see, dining room, let's say 100 seats.
Okay.
Extensive wine menu. Are you looking for design and architecture?
No,
Or are you
it
looking
just a bit. We're going to build a business plan for you.
okay.
Anything
$2
specific?
million in sales. Easy number. What do you?
That's good. That's enough right there. How many employees do you think you need?
30 employees.
And what's a problem that you see in your restaurant now that you maybe need addressed, like a problem that maybe the business plan can fix for us? Wrote staff turnover, cost of pasta.
Yeah, establishing good food costs.
To establish good. Give me the name. It will be on Michigan Ave. It will be in West Loop in Chicago. All right. So now we just put those in there. We said everything you said. We're going to enter. And this is building out live. You guys can see on the screen. We're going to let it build it. It takes in seconds. This is this is literally in seconds.
Marketing and sales strategy, product offering, operations, financial projections.
So, and we'll go through just a couple things because this is too long. Business plan, Southern Italian restaurant in West Loop, Chicago.
Oh, they give you a name.
Yeah.
Bella Napoli Ristorante.
do you
Naples, Southern Italian. Okay. Yeah. Bella Napoli. Yeah.
So with the seating capacity of 100 and an extensive wine collection, we aim to generate $2 million in sales annually. To provide exceptional service and culinary expertise, we'll employ a team of 30 dedicated and passionate individuals. High quality ingredients. Bella Wadney will be a charming Southern Italian restaurant offering an authentic
Boy,
experience.
college students have got this pretty easy. I wouldn't even know how to grade against this.
How could you? Now even look right here. What do you see? Read the startup cost.
The estimated startup costs for Bella Napoli, including leasehold improvements, kitchen equipment, furniture, licensing, and marketing, are projected $800,000. How many square feet did I say?
3,000.
3,000. So they did. They're probably right. I mean, they're doing, a price per square foot.
So that's just let's hear your review on that. We can take it off now, but
Well, it furthers sorry, I didn't mean to, I don't like dead airtime and as I was reading, but it furthers my thesis, although I highly describe the use of pronoun to be so limiting as individual. I'm sure a lot of people feel this way. That my skill set will be useless and futile in the future. When it comes to architecture and design, I'm seeing a lot of, but a lot of the examples that we use are with pop culture. And here's sort of like here's the part of 30 Minute You where I think there's a responsibility in discussion and education. Because where I'm not thrilled as far as our society is the lack of regulatory urgency. And I'll use an example. governments' strongest asset is their currency. It's why governments have waged war against Bitcoin. It's, it's why our Fed chairman, why do we even need Bitcoin? We have a perfectly good form of fiat currency. It's strong dollar. Everything they have is there. If your currency goes to hell, like we see in some South American countries, the society collapses. I mean, so currency is like the most important thing. To regulate against the dangers of counterfeit, we have basically established laws that say if you are caught counterfeiting, or if you knowingly pass counterfeit, you are going to prison. We are going to ruin you. And you've created this this isn't worth it. I'm not doing this because the risk is so great that the reward can't be worth it.
Right.
Why aren't we doing that with AI? We watched the 2016 election and all of the fake news and misinformation. We're watching images of the Pope at Fashion Week. We're seeing, duplicated voices. We're seeing so much. I mean, talk about forget destabilizing democracy with misinformation. You're talking about the collapse of a society and without this regulation. And if that's what Reddit and Twitch and all these other sort of forums and portals, these content and digital creators can do whatever the hell they want because there's no consequence. Meanwhile, they're just throwing it out into the open stream, and consumers are wondering what's true and not. And I think the danger of ultimately we'll just be so skeptical and not believe anything that we see that we won't believe the truth. The truth will hit us and we'll be like, I don't know if I could believe that. Yeah. And so, maybe only eating fast food does cure cancer. I don't know. So I think there needs to be a lot more discussion. And I think that starts with the younger generation to say, because they're the reason that these companies, they're the consumer that companies want. They are the future, quite literally. And instead of the sort of abuse and fun functionality, I think there needs to be some time reserved just on the discussion. It's not even a matter, you could say it's ethics and morals. I just think it's like, the irony of actively contributing to our own destruction is not lost, Yeah. And ultimately I'm not ever considered conspiratorial. I don't really like to entertain or engage in much. And I try not to be the pessimist, but I just see the future of this being very, rich versus poor. Have you ever seen the movie Ready Player One?
No.
Man, Meer, what do you do?
This keeps happening to us.
What do you like? I didn't even go that far. This is like 4 years ago movie. Anyway, really? It's a good movie. But they show society living in virtual reality, and their homes they're living in boxes.
Okay.
And it's the dichotomy between the wealthy and like Hunger Games.
Right.
That really depicts wealth versus the poor masses. Yeah. And I think AI will contribute significantly to this because so many jobs will be displaced. Yeah. But have you imagined, to me, what do I think that looks like in a short amount of time and what I'm concerned with? Here's how I have to look at it. I'm a business owner. Part of what I do, a lot of what I do is retail, whether it's food and beverage, cannabis, clothing, that's all retail. And retail, a lot of it is experience. But I want you to come out and my revenues are not derived from Amazon Marketplace. Like, I'm not creating a product and exclusively just putting it into online sales. So I want you to come in. My concern is if, you're in an apartment and you've got an AI chef and you want a burger from Au Cheval. Right now you could just order it on Uber Eats, but let's just say that, your chef can pretty much do anything I could do in my restaurants, right? I can't, I go out to restaurants because I don't know how to cook. So I can't cook if I want to experience it, I have to go out there. If I had a chef, a robot that could make anything I wanted, and copying their recipes, well, maybe I wouldn't go out. Maybe that takes away from it. If I, in the nightclub business, a large part of that is people want to meet. And yeah, they want to dance and they want to blow off steam, but they want to meet. And I imagine that as a result of my nightclubs, people have had sleepovers with others that they just met earlier in the night. But if at home you've got a robot that is the person of your dreams and it will do anything you want it to do, maybe it limits the desire and need to go out and experience. And so, they're talking about displacement of like accountants, and they're talking about displacement, of certain industries and construction and, truck drivers. But I for me, it's way more than that. Yeah. It's displacement of lifestyle. It's displacement of industry. And then, just like kids today, by kids, I mean children, always having the iPad in front of them, like always. Their parents just, here, take this, always, yeah. And they spend it becomes a part of their identity. And that we all know, we would all agree with the premise that that's probably going to shape the type of person you get, as 100%. Opposed to being thrown outside and like, go play, go get into trouble. Yeah. Be home when the street lamp goes out. Yeah. Your butt better be back on the porch. Well, I can imagine that children and kids growing up in an AI world where it's going to genetically change, not genetically, literally, but it's going to change the way that their personality and culture is.
It's scary because now it's even hard. Social media is already, you always talk about, one thing I appreciate about you is we had a segment that hit with a lot of people because I got emails and DMs where you spoke about the story about the car and the doctor and how social media has made like depression so much more exuberant because you see how people are living, private jets, whatever. But you always talk about how fake a lot of that is and how it's a lot of just makeup and not the reality of how people are. Back in March, there was a fake AI generated picture of the Pentagon. Like there was like a crash at the Pentagon. The stock market literally dropped 1%. And then once it was verified.
Wow. That's wild.
Yeah. And even I want to just give another AI example because it's so, didn't your niece just go to Taylor Swift?
Yeah. That hell of a experience for me getting her tickets. Yes.
And we watched you live doing that. Have you ever heard the song Hey Soul Sister?
Yeah.
So listen to this. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. So if you listen to just this 5-second version, AI made a version with just Taylor Swift's voice instead. In 30 seconds, it made it. That's Taylor Swift's voice. So they literally AI did that now. So I see why you're getting scared with it. So a lot of people are like getting bullish, but I say all this to say 30 Minute You, the focus is to mentor these Gen Zs. And how can you tie it to us? If a Gen Z is listening, if anything, I kind of leave this conversation a little bit worried just because it is scary how fast it is. And I think you should be a little bit worried because the displacement, the replacement is going to be vast. And you're thinking on a much more significant macro level. People are talking 100% accountants, professors, whatever, but this could impact the whole business of nightlife and restaurants and just how the world is in general. So what should Gen Zs do?
Well, listen, what I like about this 30-minute condensed is to give you some data, background, and thought. But your job then is to go out with your friends or your family or raise your hand in class. And whether you're using some of the information today or you're going down your own rabbit hole, but it's got to be more part of the discussion. We're just letting them run. And they just keep, and it's going so fast. Like I said, every week we're getting new updates, but I really think, we need to be talking about this more. And then I might be on an extreme where I pretty much am not participating in AI as much as I can. Mm-hmm. But if you are participating, if it is a part of your life, like anything, moderation. And you should be very conscious about the time you're spending, about the things that you're replacing it with, about how much you're allowing it to own as a measure of equity and time in your life. So
And last question for you, Carmen. Are you scared for your own just like life and business?
So let's go back to if we're sitting around the table at a bar and that topic comes, could you be dropped off at any point in time? So now I'm sometime in the future. And by the way, so when I talk like sometime in the future, I'm always like, well, that's not our problem.
Yeah.
Like that maybe our kids, but that's not our problem. This is when I'm saying time, I'm saying like 5 years, from today. No, I will have to adapt. But you know how I'm going to adapt? I don't like this because it's being recorded. I'm going to adapt by eliminating jobs. I'm going to adapt by, it's sort of like adapt or die. I can't necessarily be resistant. I can't become the mom and pop and the old arithmetic way of doing things. Mm-hmm. And I think the effect of the participation is going to be the knowledge and understanding and how I can use it. That's what business is going to do. Mm-hmm. And they're just going to say, well, man, my bottom line does matter. If I want to stay competitive, if I want my margin to exist, I'm going to have to start implementing these things. And that's where it's just like, shit. Yeah. I'm going to be an active and willing participant in elimination. Yeah. I don't know. Is that like inspiring? Is that super cool? That's where, for the purposes of, learning and seeing where this goes. Maybe in my nightclub of the future, I will bring some of those very pretty robots as customers so that I can connect to the engagement, and that you'd have to go to the place in order to see an army of these. But now I'm talking about, now now I'm getting deep, but, that's where I am on AI.
I like where we're closing out there, because I think even you're talking the reality about jobs. You're recognizing how serious this is, and you're going to adapt your business as a result. Whereas a lot of people see innovation and change and decide to just, hey, one day if it hits me, it hits me. I'll just see where life takes me. So I think it's an important lesson that, one, educate yourself. You should do things like listen to 30 Minute You, which provides you that mentorship. But two, take that accountability in your life, because you're not going to just sit there and let one day you look at your P&L and say, oh shoot, I'm done. You're gonna adapt for the next 3 to 5 to 10 years. That's why you've survived in business as long as you have. So guys, that's 30 Minute You. If you enjoyed this discussion, make sure to download the episode, leave a review, send it to a friend in college and university that needs to learn something. Carmen and Meer, we're here for you to provide you that mentorship. And if you like it, come back every other Tuesday for another episode of 30 Minute You, so you can have a classroom experience in under 30 minutes. Thanks, guys.